Hey everybody, so welcome back to Jim Bob's Garden. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to try and propagate some grapes. Now let me show you, this is my grapevine behind me, and it has been a really good grapevine. It's produced a lot of grapes, and it's a muscadine grape. It is not a seedless grape. It does have seeds to it, but that's okay because we like the taste of the grape. And I'm going to show you, this grape has done great. If you can see, there's still grapes on it right here. If you can catch that or not. Some more growing up here. So I've got grapes. It has grown a lot of grapes. I think that's about the last of it though. But the leaves are starting to discolor just a little bit, and it's not going to be long before these grapes go kaput for the winter, and I'll have to cut it all back. So I'm going to try and get some of them to grow. Now let me show you some of my other grapes. So if you look down here, you can kind of see I've got a grapevine there that I have tried to grow, and it just, something just doesn't want to work. I put compost on them. There's another one there. One of these is a Thompson seedless, I think. There's several different varieties that I got from big box stores here locally, and they just, I mean, they'll grow a little bit, but they just haven't taken off. Now the dirt isn't the greatest. I put a lot of compost into it, so I'm thinking what I may do, I've got to reconstruct this whole thing anyway. You can see the little grape arbor that I built is fallen. Well, maybe you can see it. Got a serious lean to it. All right, so it is snapped. The poles have snapped. They've rotted off, and I've got to rebuild it anyway. So I'm thinking about planting some of these muscadine grapes because they seem to grow best here. And I will tell you, some grapes just don't grow well in certain areas. All right, so let's show how I'm going to go about trying to grow some new ones. All right, so I want to show you over here some things that I've got going on. And if you look right here, that one, this one right here, that is actually a plum that came from a cutting. All of these, there, and back here, those are all goji berries, all from cuttings. And then back in behind there, right there, that is actually a fig tree from cutting. And then over here you can see that these cuttings are just getting started. Those are thornless blackberries that seem to be growing again from cuttings. So I've been pretty successful with growing various different woody plants from cuttings. And in fact, we've even managed to get a few of these roses to root from cuttings. So we're going to try that method with the grapes. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select some of the more woody parts of the grapevine. And what I'm looking to do, let me show you here. Let me cut this off. And I'm going to cut it halfway between nodes. Alright, so my goal is going to be to have at least 2 of each of these nodes where the leaves grow out underground, and then at least 1 leaf up above. So what I'm going to do on each of these, now, and the other thing is I don't want to take this all the way to the bottom of the pot, because if I do, then what will happen is anything that goes down here has very little soil, anything that grows down here has very little soil to get into the dirt with. Alright, so we're going to cut back the leaves. So you want the leaves underground. And then I'm going to go 3 nodes deep and 2 nodes above. So I will cut right between these 2 nodes. Now when you do this, don't forget which end is up. Plants do not grow upside down. Now the way I've been doing this with a lot of the other woody plants has been very successful. Now certain plants like it better than others, like when I did my my plum cuttings, out of I think 10 cuttings or a dozen cuttings, only 1 grew, but I did get 1, and that's a success. So, you know, I mean, just because you don't get all of them to grow does not mean it's not a success. But with that in mind, you're going to want to do several just to make sure that you have enough to get the job done. So what I do with this is I'm going to dip it, a bit of it in water. On this dirt, what I have is half potting soil and half compost. Some people talk about just doing it straight up sand. Other people talk about various other mediums. This has been pretty successful for me from almost everything that I've replanted. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, let me open this up first. This is my rooting hormone. I'm going to dip this in water, and that's mostly just to get the rooting hormone to stick. Stir it around inside my rooting hormone. And then I'm going to make me a little hole with a stick. You don't have to make a hole, you can push it down in, but I think that helps to keep the rooting hormone in place. So I'm going to go down to where I've got 3 below, 2 above, with 1 leaf. Now, why do you want a leaf? The reason for the leaf here is so that it actually does the transpiration. So this leaf will actually basically sweat water, and that helps to pull that water up through the stem and out, and so hopefully that will encourage it to grow. Now, this may or may not be the best time of year to do this. I have yet to determine, for me at least, what's the best time. I've done it several different times of the year, and so far it seems to have worked pretty much any time I do it. I wanted to do this after I had harvested all my grapes, and like you see, I still got a few grapes on there, but it's getting to where it's kind of late in the year. It's still warm, and I don't want to do this when it's cold. So 1, 2, 3 up above, a couple above, or I'm sorry, 3 below and a couple above. All right, we're going to dip it in water just to make the rooting hormone stick. Get you some rooting hormone. Dig a little hole. Now, how far apart? I mean, it really kind of depends. I mean, a lot of it depends on how big your pot is. All right, and 1 leaf above, and so on. So let me go ahead and finish this up real quick, and I'll show you the end result. All right, so got it done. I've got a dozen cuttings right here, and the last and probably most important part of this is to make sure that you water it. So one of the things I have found so far to be the most effective is trying to keep it watered daily. And since I have rainwater, I try and use rainwater because it doesn't have the chlorine, geez, man, does not have the chlorine in it. And so it's my belief that that will help to get the rooting hormone to work better, to get the life to grow better and quicker from the roots and the stems to the bacteria that's in the soil that should also help it. Chlorine obviously can cause the bacteria to die off, so it's not something we want. But now the other side of that is if you don't have rainwater, you can use regular water. It should be fine. I just think it's a little better if you can just use rainwater on your cuttings. Now, when do I water this? I usually try and water it at least every other day, if not every day. And once it starts to grow and I can start to see leaves coming up, new leaves, then I might back off a little bit on that. But if you don't keep it wet, it has been my experience that these rootings just do not do well. So you got to keep them wet, you got to keep them soaked. And I know a lot of people go about buying a mister, which I'm sure would be very effective. But you know me, I'm kind of cheap, so I don't really like to buy things if I don't have to. And then another thing that has been effective for me before is I have taken smaller pots and cut off a 2-liter bottle and put it on the top of the pot to keep it more humid. not really sure if that was a lot of help. That's how I got a couple of my lemon trees to root out. But I also got to say that, you know, I've had about as much success from other plants if I don't do that. So, and I wonder, because of the transpiration, if it really might not cause more problems, because it doesn't really give the opportunity for the plant to suck that moisture up and let it out through the leaf. So, so far this has been very effective for woody plants. Now there's a couple other methods that you can use. One is air layering, and I did a video, I'll link the video on air layering right here up at the top. And that is a very effective way to grow plants. The only issue is this grapevine is probably going to die off over the next couple of months. Probably less than a month, and you'll see the leaves have primarily dropped. And so I'm kind of late in the day to be doing that. I think it should be very effective with a grapevine. But I will show you, there's another thing you can do that is called, it's kind of like air layering. Let me show you this. So another thing you can do, it's basically old school air layering. And all you do is you take a vine that's laying down along the ground, dig yourself a little trench, figure out what parts you're going to be putting into the dirt, trim off the leaves. And I may be, again, I might be a little late on this, but I'm thinking if I leave it go and don't mess with it until the spring, this might actually work out very well. All right. And then you just cover it back up and keep that moist. Hopefully you'll get roots growing up in here, and then you can basically just cut it off here and have a whole new grapevine. So that's how I'm going to go about propagating my grapevines. Hopefully we'll get some more. This variety it's good enough. I mean, I don't know that I can grow Concord grapes here without doing a lot of fertilizing and without doing a lot of amendments. I just don't know. I have not had the best of luck so far. Maybe y'all from down here in the northeast part of Florida have better experience and can tell me better ways to grow your grapevines. And I probably will try air layering come probably springtime-ish. So hopefully that will end up giving us some nice new grapevines of these muscadine grapes that seem to grow pretty well here so far. And I will tell you, like the wild grapes, I do have wild grapes that grow back. Well, I think they're wild. They may have been planted previous to, but they look a lot like the wild grapevines that you see here in Florida. So I assume that they are actually the wild muscadines, but that is a type of grape that grows wild here in Florida. And it's grown great, but I've never had grapes off of it. I don't know if it's the soil or if it's because the birds get to it, but I've yet to get any grapes off of those vines that are back here in my trees. Whereas this vine, I have gotten a ton of grapes off it. So if I can get more of these vines to grow, this hopefully will be the future for us to have grapes. All right, so thanks once again for stopping by. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, and let me know what you think. And most importantly, grow something. Try something different. The worst that will happen is I will have wasted about half an hour and a few grapevines that I was going to cut back anyway. All right, so anyway, thanks once again. Y'all come back and see me now.